Welcome back to the Hollywood Podcast. It's John Doe and Clark Brown. We got a nice show lined up for you guys today. I read an interesting stat the other day that said 40% of all millennials have student loan debt. And I was actually just thinking, like, what is really the value of a 4 year college education? And I really wanted to dive into that on today's episode. So Clark Brown, I'm gonna line you up with that question. What are your thoughts?
One of my thoughts. What is the value of the 4 year
Yeah,
degree?
what is the value of a 4 year degree? Do you feel as though like you actually, emerge from that 4 years with a skill set that allows you to attack the real world better than someone who doesn't go to a 4 year college?
We already had a conversation about this earlier, and like a couple of days before. Um, it's a little bit of both. At the end of the day, I always feel like it's a little bit of both. I feel like anybody who pretty much goes to college will end up doing a little bit of both. It teaches you social skills as well as there are a number of soft skills. I mean, there's a number of things that you can learn in your major and to your certain profession that you may be pursuing. Um, and that's all pretty much a choice. And there's always a choice of you going on that campus and completely wasting those 4 years and not learning a single thing and may not even need to learn a single thing because you already got it. I mean, I was a hall director and for 2 years, so and I was an RA for 2 years as well. So 4 years of kind of seeing what my fellow students did and then what my students that were below me kind of did. And you just kind of see a lot. Everybody kind of tells you they had the different experiences of why they even came to college. And even throughout senior year, it may change. And some people stuff kind of say the same. Some people say, yo, I came to college to party. And guess what? Even in senior year, somehow they're there at commencement, walking across stage, and they were there to party. And that's what they did up until that very last night. Um, but it's just 4 years. That 4 years really depends on what you want to use it for. But I personally say like it's needed. I
Yeah, I
don't I
mean,
don't oh go ahead. I was about to say.
no, I don't mean to cut you short, but you brought up a good point earlier when we were having a conversation. You were saying like, right, like at the end of the day, what you do with that 4 years is really up to you. But what the degree does provide you is potentially a level of access that other people don't have, right? And that in itself is valuable, right? Like I think a lot of people, I mean, I've actually been on calls before with institutions who are recruiting, and if there wasn't a certain GPA or the person didn't go to a certain school, it was just the resume just kind of goes in the trash. So there is like truth to the idea that like you're gonna just be declined certain opportunities simply just because you don't have a education of a certain level. So I don't know, it's tough. I think on the flip side of that, everything that I've ever learned has been information that's just been either regurgitated to me or that I've read and kind of just absorbed myself. And so, I think a lot of times the curriculum was decided for us in the case of high school. College, you have a little bit more leeway, but,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the curriculum is largely decided for you. Um, it's tough. I mean, I feel like you walk away with skills, but at the end of the day, I don't think that it like, it puts you in a place where like you're better or a higher quality worker than someone who didn't do that. Like, I think someone who didn't go to a 4 year can be better. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if it comes
Yeah.
down to a degree because I've done seen people, at least from an education standpoint, absorb less than 10% of the curriculum over 4 years. You know, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, like I said, it depends on your circumstance. Like me coming into college, I still wanted to learn. I learned a number of things, like I said, but the most things that I got out of college were outside of the classroom. I learned a number of social skills. When I became an on-campus leader, I learned how to run organizations and like the ins and outs of it. Calling to set up a stage, calling to get these lights done, calling to do all this stuff for like a fashion show or whatever type of event you're trying to have. Get vendors in, how much you got to pay them, figuring out how to do a checking process with the office, going to human resources and check all that stuff. Like you learn so much more, and they don't ever teach you that in a class half the time. Like I don't remember the last time I sat in my finance class and they even taught me half of that stuff. I mean, checks and balances and all that stuff. Accounting was still good. I still value all that type of stuff to this day, but I don't work in that line. That's like when they were teaching me the Pythagorean theorem. I don't use that right now. You get it?
Right.
But like I said, all those social skills is what really matters, and that's really what you kind of need at that age. You're 18 years old. You don't really know what you want to do, regardless. And even if you have a very solid idea, it could change. It could change in a heartbeat. Anything kind of change that moment, or you could just simply change and fall out of love with whatever you thought you was in love with. Um, but those 4 years are just to kind of acclimate to what adult life is going to be like. All those people around you are going to be adults around you as well as you progress in life too. So you guys are all learning it at the same time. And I said this on the phone earlier, and this is always true. I say this almost all the time. Every single weekend on that campus, majority of that campus breaks the law. Most of the time, those people on that campus are breaking the law consistently. You are learning how to be an adult with no consequences. You are allowed to have the craziest impulses sometimes on the campus and get away with it. And then you are taught, they constantly try to reaffirm for you to have that type of impulse control. So like really that's adulting. That 4 years is for you to learn how to be an adult and learn what adulting really kind of is. So sometimes it's really a disadvantage when you don't take that time to go there. Some people could learn it outside of it, but I don't think that most of the time that's realistic for a lot of people. And that's not the best way to kind of figure it out sometimes. And sometimes you just come from a household it's hard to figure it out. It's not going to be passed down. You're going to be expected to start working and start paying bills. And then, I don't know, you just decide to start working at Foot Locker and then you just don't. You don't do anything else. You don't progress. You don't take no other class or anything like that.
Well, I
Time
think
slips away that quick.
that kind of segues into the other topic we were talking about. Is like, right, like if you do decide to not take that route where you go and get a 4 year, like what is your plan? Because you mentioned working at Foot Locker. Like there's nothing wrong with working at Foot Locker unless that's your only plan and you plan on working at Foot Locker for the next 20 years. Like that's probably, like, I mean, I guess it can be done, but like I don't know, if I was going that route, like that wouldn't be my plan. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like you could actually argue that those individuals that don't take that route have to grow up a little bit quicker because life's going to come at you faster, right? Like, okay,
Exactly.
you
So you
have
have
to
to have a
work, you
plan.
have to have a plan, right? And a lot of your time is going to be committed to other things because now you decided to work, so you're going to be paying bills, and it's all right after you've done all the things that a normal person does in a day: work, wake up, work out, all of that stuff. You have a couple hours left in your day. What are you going to do with that time to push you in a direction so that you're not sitting in that seat at Foot Locker for 20 years? Um, if that's not what you want to do. I mean, if that's what you want to do, then go for it. But
Yeah.
I
Like
don't
think
know.
about it, bro. 4 years of college on your resume looks way better than 4 years of Foot Locker. No matter what. No matter what. And it's just because you were there. You couldn't have learned a single your GPA can be a 1.6 if you graduate like that. I'm sorry. But it does not matter. I removed my GPA off my resume, not because it's embarrassing or anything like that. I'm still up there, 3.5. Come on, baby. But like that's not the point. It don't matter. I got a whole master's degree. I think that's probably the biggest thing too. The bachelor's degree gave me access to the master's degree, and I felt like I learned a lot more in master's degree. I probably learned a lot more things that I could apply one in my life and to my job, which was amazing. But I shouldn't have had to work all the way to get to my master's degree to start getting that from classes. That's probably the biggest thing. It didn't feel like regurgitation anymore.
Right.
Um,
I mean, I would say like
that's access to.
the point you just brought up is awesome, but I think that also kind of bounces back to like a level of maturity and having the ability to kind of pick exactly what it is that you're going to study. Like sometimes I think back and I'm like, okay, and I understand why our school system isn't set up like this. It would be stupid, but like, all right, I love investing, and I work with stocks. So it's like, okay, what if I was doing that from the time that I was like 7 years old? You know what I mean? Like, what if I was, going along with the regular curriculum that they have, but I've decided that also a part of my curriculum is going to be investing education. You know what I mean? Financial statement analysis, shit like that. And you're practicing those skills from 7 years old. Like, I feel like mentally you'd be in a completely different place at, 21 or 30 years old. So it's just interesting. But at the same time, like if you were to only focus on one subject, we'd just be creating people that were just tools essentially. You know what I mean? Like you'd only be good for like one thing. So I understand why we have kind of the basic building blocks of a curriculum, but I also feel like part of the reason why people are kind of prepared to fail in some senses is because like there's not enough like, autonomy to pick what it is that you really want to do in life. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, yo, like I had to study Latin for what
6
6+
years.
years is like for what?
I took
You know what I
Greek
mean? Just
after that last year, boy.
and that was, you know what I mean? And that was just because like the education institution I went to just decided that's how it was gonna go down. So I would have rather spent that time learning about business, but it wasn't up to me. So but I mean that puts us at the last part of this segment, which I would say is like this student debt, right? It's like 40% of people who go to school end up, or I would say millennials come back with some type of debt. Like, do you think that this is something that could ultimately be forgiven?
What do you mean by forgiving?
Yeah, like
Like,
forgiving all of your student debts. Like if you just went to a 4 year school, you're 100 grand in debt, and the government just comes up and says you are no longer 100 grand in debt. AKA, I guess we're taking on that bill, right? Because it's not like the
you
liability
mean
just disappears.
everybody? Like they do that for everybody?
I mean, isn't that like when I hear people talking about erasing student loans and forgiving student loans, like isn't that kind of the assumption, or like I want to know how that would actually work in a
Now, I just
real
wanted to
world
ask
setting.
you. I can't tell you exactly how I work in a real world setting because I'm not a politician exactly, and I don't know all the numbers. But I'm gonna tell you this right now, Rome, and it's something I saw online. Shout out to the person who ever said it. But that happening would essentially be the same thing as the Republicans getting their wall and having Mexico pay for it. Oh, my fault. Now the Republicans having Trump get his wall and pay for it. That essentially would have been the same thing if that would have happened. Because you know how much student loan debt is out there.
Yeah, I mean it's and that's the thing that I always get confused on. It's like, listen, I'm all for like
I'm for
financially
it.
liberating people, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But I think there are some questions that like because basically what you're just talking about is just sending over a stimulus check, right? Like it's just a big ass stimulus check.
it's a huge
And
one though.
and you don't really have the option to take it and spend it on something else. You would have to apply it towards student loans. But like, okay, what about someone that was $50,000 in debt and paid all that down their first 5 years out of school? Like, what about them? Like, I'd be pissed if I was them.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like in politics, I think that's what we're gonna kind of start seeing is they're gonna lean towards that because they threw the idea out there. They weren't probably gonna follow up on it, but they're gonna meet somewhere. I think it's gonna fall for like people who have like debt, probably 20,000 or less, something like that, 10,000 or less. You might start seeing that get white. But like $100,000 in debt, $80,000 in student loan debt, I don't realistically see if they do that for those type of people who have that large amount sum of money, it's not going to be a large percentage of them. Or I mean, if they do that, maybe they won't do that for people with less than $50,000. Like there's so many factors that come into it, and then I mean, you still have to come into the play with the politicians. Like it's gonna become personal for them, regardless of how non-personal is supposed to be. They're still gonna be personal about it. They're still gonna hold to some politics. They're still gonna hold like what grudges about other things and just be like, no. So like,
And then you have other people who could have had the opportunity to go, but didn't want to take out that debt. So they said, no, I'm not going to go and get a college education. I'm going to do something else. And they're successful in their field. But like, I would also be pissed if like, okay, 20 years down the line, I realized that I could have had that opportunity just, kind of on a free ride. So I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider, and this is like a touchy subject because you find that people are just kind of either on one end of the spectrum or the other. Some people just think it's like completely unfair, like that idea should just never exist. And some people are like, yo, like this is literally crippling us, right? Because at the end of the
yeah,
day, this generation is going to have to produce at a level that allows us to kind of like take care of our parents' generation and the up and coming generation. And we got 100K on everybody head top for student loans. So
let me ask you
it's
a question. Two things. If you, oh, I'm not even gonna say if you, when you are successful and you have children, um, and let's say you have a business that you could pass down to them. So essentially, like you could pass the business down. They don't gotta even worry about really going to school. You can teach them all the stuff that they need to know as they go throughout. And you can have them surrounded by the right people, especially people that work in the business already, that really be running it, to teach them those ins and outs that they need to know. And of course, you'll be there and mom. Um, so you have all that. Do you make your child go to school? Does your child need to go to school? And if he does go to school, she or she, or however you like to identify, they do go to school. What exactly do they need out of that situation? What do you personally think, like out of that situation? Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't look at it and say like I'm gonna make my kid do this or make my kid do that. Like if I'm in a parental in like a parent type of role, like I feel like I would look at it and be like, all right, like if you're not going to school, what are you doing? Like show me that, you know, 5 year plan. Like what are we really talking about here? If they do want to go to school, then that's awesome. I feel like if they do decide to go to school, I think there's a lot of different things that
Or if they
you're
wanted to
supposed to get
rap
out
for
of
the
that.
next 4 years and then
They
take over the
wanted to
company,
rap.
and let's just say they're an average rapper. I'm just throwing an idea.
Like me, bro, I look at it and it's funny that you say that because like that just kind of comes back to creativity. I think the awesome thing about like going to school is that you
You can do that there.
you have a little bit more time to just like explore life a little bit more. You know what I mean? Which isn't a
Mm-hmm.
luxury that everybody has, right? Some
Mm-hmm.
people, like we just mentioned, they gotta grow up quick. But if you have 4 years of education and your job is to really just go out there and get good grades and play a sport or whatever the case may be, is however you look at it, like you have time to kind of figure things out. And so like I would definitely want to have my kid have that opportunity because like maybe you start this rapping thing off at 18 and you don't go to college and like it fails, right? Do you have enough? Is your skill set at a place where you can bounce back and you can actually have a plan B where you can get yourself to a position that you want to be in? So I think like college allows you to build that skill set. I would say that's one of the things you definitely need to take away from that experience. And I think there's a social side of it, right? Like at the end of the day, college, like whatever you learn, like you're never gonna forget like the experience. You know what I mean? The people that you were there with, the things you learned about yourself, about others, and just like that time is just an interesting period for people to have.
Yeah.
So I'd want them to have that, but I don't know. It's a mix, but I think at the end of the day, like everybody's experience is so unique and so different, and everybody goes for different reasons that it's hard to just say like this is exactly what I would want my kid to learn. Because like what if that's not what he wants to learn? What he or she doesn't want to take away?
Was college the best 4
How
years of
about
your life?
no.
No, the 4 years consecutively. That's not the so far in your life. It's not the best 4 years of your life. It's always a question to ask because people say that's the best 4 years of life is supposed to be. So
No, I wouldn't say so.
so far, it
I
hasn't.
felt like there were other 4 year stretches that were like more fulfilling.
That's true.
I mean, it was dope. Don't get me wrong. Like I had a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I wouldn't do it differently. But like, I don't know. And I've always like I felt like it might be like cliche to say or whatever, but it's like if college is the best time of my life, then like,
Yo, bro, you have so much more life to live after that.
What am I living for? You know what I mean? It's like, damn. Like if I've already peaked, then like, what is the rest of the potential next 30 years? I mean, sorry, 30 years. I'm trying. Like the next 70 years, if I live to 100,
Bro said 30.
what happens? Shit, it might be 30. You never know.
I mean, you never know, but I'm not predicting I'm gonna die no 50, bro. I'm trying to live to 100 and excuse me, 362, boy.
That's why I had to back it up to the 70 years. But I mean, like over that time period, so much can happen. I feel like if the peak was college, then that's just kind of like sad. Like I'm looking forward to brighter days. How about you? I mean, what do you think? Was it the best 4 years of your life? And
oh no. What? College is so difficult, but there's so much stuff that I still learned. It was life. That's probably the thing. It was the biggest introduction to life. Like, plus like those 2 years of getting my master's degree kind of was like a little buffer as well before I really got into adulthood. And had to start paying Supreme bills and rent and all that stuff,
Yeah.
I can't say that's gonna be the best 4 years of my life, and I still want to look back and say it's the best 4 years of my life. It was an interesting time. Exciting, very exciting, but I think as I get older, I can do more and more things that would be even more exciting than that. May not be 4 year consecutive stretches, but I'm not surrounded by people breaking the law for 4 years straight or anything like that, or even 3 or 2 years, whatever. Not realistically, like be real. I don't do underage drinking and stuff like that. I don't underage drink. I'm 26 and I don't need to do that stuff. I can just live my life however I want to because I'm grown now at this point and I pay the bills. It's my house or my room or whatever, my apartment. So, like you kind of said, if that's really where I peaked, then what am I living for at that point?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good way to look at it. But shit, I mean,
I don't condone suicide. Don't kill yourself at the college because it's going to get better. I promise you, bro. Even the first 2 years suck, it's going to get better. I promise you.
Yeah. Like, college, if anything, should just be the beginning. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, if anything, the biggest thing I probably take away from my college experience is that, like, your boundaries are limitless. Like, you know what I mean? Like, being, like, everybody for a certain extent is, big fish in a small pond. And then, like, you go out into the world and you're like, wow, like, there's more that exists than just, like, what I've been exposed to. Gives you an opportunity to see the world. Some people get the opportunity to study abroad and go to different countries that they've never even, heard of before. You know what I mean? So it like the opportunities you get are crazy. And I think it changes the way you look at life. I mean, at least for me, I kind of look at life as like, anything is achievable. I don't know if I necessarily looked at it like that before. And I think I did, but that just kind of like solidified it. Like, yeah, like let's get it. When I got to college and I'm meeting all these different people from different walks of life, and I'm just like, like this is a different type of experience. You know what I mean? Like I said, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But it's I don't know. Everybody's college experience is different. But I feel like if we were to survey like 100 millennials that went to college, like I think most people are gonna say that they would definitely consider it one of the best times in their life.
I mean, that's fair. There's nothing wrong with that.
Which is fine. Like at this point in our lives, you know what I mean. But like
Yeah.
if you're 50, 60, 70, 80 saying that, then
I mean, that just means
I
that you
would
did a
feel
lot in
like,
college, though. Like, think about it. College in the 70s is way different. They used to work full-time job, go to classes, and they'd be able to pay for college in their own spot like that, and then just enjoy their life. Like,
no, I'm
they
talking
were,
about when the millennials of
oh,
like
yeah, yeah,
today's
yeah, yeah.
generation is 50,
Baby
60,
boomers
70,
going
80.
crazy, you feel me? Now
Then
that you're
I'm
saying
like,
that.
if you know what I mean, like when we turn
Yeah.
80, we should not be saying college is the best 4 years. Like then we just lived our life completely wrong.
Hey. But, some people, it's your choice. We say all that. I definitely wanted to put this in there. Do whatever the fuck you want to do with your life. You don't gotta go to college. You don't got if you want to spend 4 years in Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, I don't know, Dubai, whatever, instead of going to college, or even if you want to stay at home and work at Foot Locker, collect shoes, resell, do whatever. If you wanna, I'm not condoning you to be a hacker or anything like that or scam people, but whatever you decide to do in your life, go about that and do that as probably as you want to. We just saying, yo, it don't hurt to get some education. College is a great place for connections, especially if, let's say, you want to be a rapper. I promise you can make a lot of connections. There are a lot of people that go on those campuses with that as a hobby and could potentially help you out, or just have the right connection to a person that can help you out. So, I mean, don't ever sit aside and don't think that it's not the right option or it's not, a good option. But also, don't take out that student loan debt. I don't condone that. Probably that's the biggest part of it. I
Yeah,
don't
I
have
mean,
any
listen,
student loan debt, so
I will say, like again, like if you probably ran a study, this is just like I'm just throwing this out there. It's like if you run a study, the whole idea is that right, like you go to college and you put yourself in debt, but you increase your earnings power.
exactly.
Right. So it's like it's an investment in yourself. So that's how you got to look at it. If you're just going to college and you're looking like, yo, I'm gonna just fuck off for 4 years and just like not really try to better myself, don't take out that debt. You know what I mean? But like if you're looking at it like I'm gonna do all of that and I'm gonna educate myself and put myself in a position to succeed in a specific field or build a skill set that'll actually allow me to attack in the real world, then yeah, take out the debt because it's an investment in yourself.
And if you don't gotta take out the debt and you want to make either choice, you make either choice.
Right.
Go there and
All
fuck
right.
off for 6 years for all I care at that point. It's your choice though. Just remember, I just don't